Hi, thank you for coming back to my channel, The Retail Guru. This time I thought let's focus on why successful brands die. Today I'm going to elaborate on two of the companies that I worked with in the past. One is Toys R Us and one was Saks Fifth Avenue. And let's get into the details of why these successful brands failed. I worked for Toys R Us in 2002 and it was of course an iconic retailer. But how do you get from 700 plus stores worldwide and a turnover of 15 billion to suddenly having debt of 5 billion and moving into store closures and bankruptcy? Let's investigate why things went wrong. So the first thing that comes to mind for Toys R Us is the deal of selling online with Amazon. Toys R Us in the year 2000 looked at the online space and realized that there was a lot of potential in doing business online. And they got into a deal with Amazon that had them pay a percentage of sales to Amazon plus a $50 million a year retainer. And basically, Toys R Us became the exclusive distributor of toys on Amazon. Amazon, being a very cannibalistic and a very opportunistic type of business, realized that the toy business has a lot of potential. And they decided to bring in other toy suppliers also into the mix on Amazon. And a good 8 years that Toys R Us stayed on Amazon, Amazon used that time to understand the complete model of Toys R Us. And Toys R Us finally went to court. They won the case, they sued Amazon, they got some amount of the money that they had paid as retainership back, but they lost a critical 7-8 years in coming up with their own e-commerce portal. The failure to move in time and create their own website was one of the main reasons for Toys R Us to fail. So one of the terms I want you to understand is what do they mean when they say a category killer. Toys R Us was basically considered a category killer. Category killers are stores which are anywhere ranging from 20,000 to 200,000 square feet. They dominate a particular category and they keep the complete length and breadth of the assortment. And I recall this very clearly when I worked in Toys R Us. We had over 10,000 active SKUs in the business. And you know, when you talk about Toys R Us as a category killer, what was actually its strength finally became its liability, because in being a category killer, Toys R Us was able to be a monopoly in the toy space. They were able to negotiate very favorable deals with suppliers, but the Amazon deal that they did with the supplier, after it fell through and they tried to create their own e-commerce space, they were never able to compete with Amazon in terms of pricing. Why do I say that? It's because Amazon, while they would position their toy business, or rather their toy pricing, much lower than the competition in the market, including Toys R Us, Amazon was able to make margin from their other categories in the business, whether it came to apparel, food, electronics. Now, Toys R Us, because it was a toy business and they adopted a strategy of very low pricing, that in turn resulted in a margin loss, resulted in them getting into negative net profit, and as a result of which was another reason for their demise. Another thing what killed Toys R Us was that the lack of theatrics. Toy stores is about interaction. It's where dreams should come alive for kids. Kids should want to stay, in those stores, spend time there, browse the aisles, have fun. But Toys R Us was a very supermarket type of environment. You found the product well merchandised, striped in the panels, but there was no real service associated with it. There was not a lot of demonstrations happening. There was not a lot of fun and interactions going on with children. And that was another reason why Toys R Us failed. So if we were to summarize the main reasons for Toys R Us, the first thing is going online with Amazon, which actually did a lot of damage to them. They lost precious years in developing their own e-commerce space. Another thing that killed them was competitive pricing, where they could not match Amazon's pricing and their inventory situation. Because they carried so many active SKUs in the business, there was no concept of lean inventory, as a result of which it was another burden on their cash flow. And the final reason is what we just spoke about, which is the lack of theatrics in the store. So if you were to look at these would be the three main reasons why Toys R Us failed. So the second brand I want to talk about is Saks Fifth Avenue. I had the pleasure of working for Saks Fifth Avenue in late 2003 when we opened in Barjuman. One of the most amazing places to work in. And one of the main reasons for Saks Fifth Avenue's initial success was that was the time when American retailers actually started leaving American shores and coming into the Middle East. Saks Fifth Avenue was one of the first American luxury department stores per se to open in the Middle East. And at its peak, our turnover was approximately $70 million a year. And we had some of the best brands under one roof. However, if you fast forward 10 years, you'll know today that Saks Fifth Avenue has exited the Middle East. And of course, there were some strategic decisions which were taken at the time, due to which the brand unfortunately did not reach its full potential. While we spoke about the first mover advantage, that Saks Fifth Avenue was one of the first American luxury department stores to came in with being a flagship store in Barjuman. Barjuman Mall at that time was considered one of the highest density malls for luxury in the world. And it was a good thing. It was very prestigious to work over there. But the attitude of the mall management was absolutely poor. When Mall of Emirates was opening up in about 2006, they were very slow to react to the development that luxury would also be present in Mall of the Emirates. And surprisingly, nothing really happened in terms of the sales. The sales were still holding steady. There was good year-on-year growth. And then came the construction of the metro. Now, the metro was a major nightmare for people who wanted to come to Barjuman to shop luxury. And this really created a disruptive scenario. Also, Barjuman by that time had gotten very arrogant. They believed that they wanted only a particular class of customers to patronize the mall. And in that decision, they decided to exit supermarkets that were there in the mall at that particular period of time. They also started charging you for parking. So as a customer, you had to pay, if I remember correctly, around 30 to 50 dirhams when you brought in your car to park. So these were all actually barriers that impacted the footfall of Barjuman pretty negatively. And this myopic view of the management that no competition is going to damage us was one of the main reasons why, Barjuman and Saks Fifth Avenue happened to fail simultaneously. In 2008 came the behemoth of retail, Dubai Mall. And what had happened is, in the eagerness to secure a very low rent in Barjuman, Saks Fifth Avenue got into a restrictive lease agreement. The agreement was such that for the next 10 years, you would have X amount of rent, which was, of course, a very discounted rate of rent to pay for that particular market. But the term was that you would not be able to open within the city in any other mall, another branch. And that was the major downfall, the restrictive rent agreement. Dubai Mall opened up, Mall of Emirates had opened up, you had Harvey Nichols, the luxury department store from the UK, you had Bloomingdale's, which opened up along with Galeries Lafayette in Dubai Mall, which was a French mid-market to high-end department store. All these were opening on huge scales. Saks Fifth Avenue was an 85,000 square foot store. You had Harvey Nicks in Mall of Emirates, which was 130,000 plus. You had Galeries Lafayette, which was 160,000 plus. And you had Bloomingdale's, which was close to 200,000 square feet. So with these sort of behemoths, there was no way that Saks Fifth Avenue could compete in terms of length and depth of its merchandise and in terms of the brand mix. Another thing that caused conflict was the shareholders. Saks Fifth Avenue was a consortium of 4 shareholders: the Chalhoub Group, Damas, Capico and Almana. Now you know that Chalhoub Group is one of the leading luxury retailers in the UAE, or rather in the Middle East. You have Almana, which is also a leading luxury retailer in Qatar. Damas, of course, is into jewelry, and Capico from Kuwait is into cars. But here you can see that you've got 3 shareholders whose interest is very much in the retail segment. And Chalhoub was extremely shrewd in the way they brought in Saks Fifth Avenue, because while they were minority shareholders, they used Saks Fifth Avenue as a ground to see what were the luxury brands that were doing well. And then they would go and outreach those brands and open standalone stores, taking out those brands from Saks Fifth Avenue. So in effect, the Chalhoub Group was cannibalizing their own business. Because why would I look for a business where I'm a minority shareholder when I can actually leverage getting 100% of the profits by cannibalizing off those brands? So to summarize the main reasons why Saks Fifth Avenue failed. The first was Burjuman, very arrogant mall. The second was conflict of interest with the shareholders. The third was bigger and better department stores that opened up in Mall of Emirates and Dubai Mall. And the fourth was the failure to expand. And these were all the major reasons for the demise of Saks Fifth Avenue in the Middle East. Thank you for coming back to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments if you have any in the comment section, and I look forward to seeing you at the next. Thank you.